Hi, my name is Father Charlie Bouchard, and I'm here to offer you a reflection on the readings for Palm or Passion Sunday so that you can know a little bit more about these readings before you go to the celebration. You know, all of us have heard these readings from the Passion many times, the Passions that are found in the Gospel, as well as the story from Isaiah, the account of the suffering servant. But today, as I read those readings, something occurred to me that I'd never really thought about before. And that is the very heavy emphasis on the body in all of these readings. For instance, in Isaiah, there are these repeated references to body parts, the face, the tongue, the beard, the buffets he received on his back, his eyes, and his ears. All of these references to the body as part of who we are. And then even in the gospel, there are, again, numerous references to the body of Jesus, that it was anointed with the perfumed oil, that it was spit upon, that it was beaten, it was bound, it was hung on the cross, and then finally it was taken down and buried. And it makes it very clear that this passion that we celebrate today is not just a spiritual exercise. This is a very physical, embodied thing that involves the whole person. Jesus' emotions, his arms, his legs, his heart, his tears, everything. A highly bodily experience through which our salvation is obtained. And I think if we look at those two readings from Isaiah and then from the gospel account today, we can realize that the reading from Philippians, which comes right in the middle, really ties it all together. It summarizes in just a few verses the whole mission of Jesus, that Jesus, though he was in the form of God, humbled himself and took on our human identity, which included having a body. That he became a slave, he assumed our bodies and offered them up to God. That this bodily reality of his was there primarily so that he could give it back to God as a gift. And perhaps like the centurion in the gospel today, the realization that Jesus was Lord comes to us when we witness this suffering. It seems kind of ironic to see someone tortured and put to death and then realize that they're divine. But that's exactly what happens with the centurion who experiences Jesus' death, and then he says, truly, this man was the Son of God. I think in addition to reminding us about the bodily nature of the passion of Jesus, it is also an opportunity for us to reflect upon our own bodies. You know, we all have one. Some of them are old, some of them are young. Some of our bodies are very flexible and lithe and athletic. Others are stiff with arthritis or with chronic illness. Some of our bodies are, or at least maybe were at one point, perfectly proportioned and beautiful, but now as we've grown older, maybe a little bit less perfect proportions and maybe a little less beautiful, at least physically, than they used to be. And I think that it asks us to think about why God gave us bodies in the first place. You know, they're incredibly important to us. I mean, almost everything we know, everything we experience comes to us through our bodily senses. There's nothing that we're aware of that we don't first hear or see or touch or smell. And almost everything that we respond to is done through emotions. You know, we sometimes have emotions of joy or sorrow or grief. We have tears, we have laughter. All of these bodily expressions are ways in which we acknowledge what we experience through our bodies and then process them in some kind of physical reaction. In many ways, our bodies are the way that we know everything, but they can also be literally a pain. Those of us who have chronic illnesses or are even recovering from some kind of injury know that our bodies can really drag us down. They make us aware of our own mortality. They make us aware of our weakness and our limitation. And yet we read stories all the time of people who have triumphed over tragedy or bodily illness, who have lost limbs or who have suffered severe disfigurement, and they manage to retain their sense of hope, their love of God, and above all, their faith. I think we should also ask ourselves, in addition to why we have bodies in the first place, which mediate all of these different kinds of knowing and these different emotions, what do we do with our bodies? That's, I think, a fundamental question that we could entertain during this celebration of the Passion. When we read about Jesus, clearly his body was a gift from God so that he could give it for us. And we too have to ask about what we do with our bodies. You know, do we use them for good? Do we see and hear and want things, desire things that are good for us and helpful to others? Or do we allow our bodily desires sometimes to carry us away into things that are sinful or at least not very dignified? We also need to ask whether we use our tongue, as the prophet Isaiah mentioned, to preach the gospel. Do we use our hands and our arms and our strength to somehow express our love of God and to bring that love into the world? Perhaps the most important line in today's liturgy is when, during the Eucharistic prayer, we say, Jesus took the bread, gave it to his disciples, and said, "This is my body given up for you." Once again, referring explicitly to his bodily experience. This is my body given up for you. And I believe the celebration of the Passion today is a way in which we can say the same thing. This is my body. For now, at least, this is who I am. God has given me this body that I might know and experience and love and enjoy and, yes, of course, suffer. But we are called, like Jesus, to offer our bodies, ourselves, for other people. And so perhaps as we read this account of the Passion today, we can reflect on the bodies we have, whether they're in great shape or perhaps in need of occasional repair, but ask ourselves, how can we give these bodies to others in faith? What can we do, whether we're old or young, healthy or not very healthy? How can we give ourselves to others just as Jesus did? This is my body given for you.